Hi guys, how are we doing today? All right, we'll just give it 30 more seconds and see if anybody else pops in. Looks like we've still got some folks connecting to audio. So while they're doing that, I'm going to try to get in with my tablet just in case there's any drawing or explanation that we need to do. So just hang with me for just a second. Okay, let's see here. Technology and me are fighting big time today. Okay. Okay, guys, we're gonna just do a quick run through of Blackboard. And so we know where we're at this week and how we're transitioning into systems from foundational principles. And then I'll open it up to, we can either do some poll everywhere questions, or if you guys have specific questions about the material, I'd be happy to answer those as well. All right, but first things first, let's look at Blackboard together. So this week is week 7. It's hard to believe we're almost halfway through the semester. And this week is, actually, this is not going to give you an overview of the semester project. I did that a couple of weeks ago. But this week we are diving into the pubertal system. And I love this whole aspect of growth and maturity in our livestock animals. I spent a lot of time in research of this system when I was in graduate school, both for my master's and my PhD. And so there's just a whole lot of things that have to happen before a female or a male can actually be considered puberal. And so you're going to get the opportunity to hear from Dr. Doyle this week. He and I co-designed this class. And so these are his videos. And so through chapter 6, you're going to be introduced to how the brain is set up and defeminized. And then it'll take you through all the check boxes that each individual has to make in order to transition into puberty. And so the take-home message today is that puberty is not an on-off switch. It is a process. And so it can take sometimes up to 6 months to actually, for that female to actually be in process depending on the species. And so this week, you guys will be watching 3 videos. You've got the note guide available to you. And then the chapter 6 quiz is down here at the bottom. And that'll be due end of day Friday. And it's not March 12th. It will be Friday, October 8th. And so I'll go back in and change that. Let me see if I can just change it now. No, it's not going to let me. Okay, I'll have to go back in and change it a different way. So that is what we've got going on this week. And with that, I will stop sharing and I'm going to turn it over to you guys. What would be the most beneficial for you guys? Would you like to run through some poll everywhere questions? Do you have specific questions about anything up to what we've covered in the class? The last 2 weeks we've spent on endocrinology. Do you have questions about the class project? All that good stuff.
I have a lot of questions about the class project, but I think it's almost too much for me to start worrying about that right now, even though I should be paying attention. So I'd almost rather just go for some polls just so I can start growing in my understanding of stuff.
Okay.
I probably don't realize I don't know. But I don't know if everybody else, I don't know how everybody else feels.
Yeah, Peyton is all up for polls as well. So we will go ahead and do that. So thank you guys for chiming in. All right. So let me get this set up. We'll get it activated. I'll drop my link back into. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're going to activate this one. Okay, here's the link to the poll. And so we've got 9 of you. So I'm going to wait until we've got like 6 to 8 responses or until we time out. Okay. And so some of these questions, some of you guys saw last week, but I think reiterating this stuff is really important and to make sure that we've got a good hold on it. So, all right. So GnRH is produced in which tissue? Okay, so I'll give you guys 30 more seconds. GnRH is produced in which tissue? Okay. See where our responses are at. Everybody is on the same page. Fantastic. Yes, gonadotropin releasing hormone is produced in the hypothalamus. Good job, guys. All right, next question. Progesterone, abbreviated as P4, is produced in which tissue? I'm going to give you 30 seconds here. So progesterone is produced in which tissue? All right, 5 seconds to go, guys.
Mine still says GnRH.
Oh,
You have
dang it.
to open
Okay.
it up.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, now it
Yeah,
should
there
be.
we go.
So
Thank you.
progesterone is produced in which tissue? All right, about 15 more seconds here, guys. Okay, we'll go ahead and take a look. Okay, so we got a few different answers, but progesterone is the steroid hormone that is produced by the ovary. All right, so we can see receptors for progesterone in the uterus. Okay, so that's how progesterone elicits its response, is it targets its receptors in the uterine tissue, and it has a calming effect on the uterine smooth muscle, right? So it stops contractions, makes it a nice, warm and fuzzy environment as well. The progesterone also is received, so not produced, but received in the hypothalamus as well. So it creates a progesterone block on the hypothalamus. So, but as far as production, like where the steroid hormone is actually produced, that is in the ovary. And more specifically, which structure on the ovary. You guys can just talk out on this one. So which structure on the ovary produces progesterone?
Corpus luteum.
Corpus luteum. Yeah, great job. Excellent.
What did you say that progesterone is received at?
So it's received in a lot of tissues, but the uterus, it's received at the hypothalamus, it's received at the vagina and the cervix. All right. Okay, let's go to the next question. I'll activate it. There we go. Estrogen, also called estradiol, is produced in which tissue? All right, so we'll do about 15 more seconds here. All right, go ahead and get them in, guys. Okay, so let's look at our responses. All right. Okay, so estradiol is also produced in the ovary and the placenta, but the largest percentage of estradiol is going to be produced in the ovary. So what structure on the ovary actually produces estradiol?
The follicle.
The follicle. Good job. Excellent. Okay, let's go to our next question. Activate it. Okay, ECG is produced in which tissue? All right, about 15 seconds to go here, guys. All right, let's go ahead and lock them in. Okay, so the answer here is the placenta. So ECG is specific to the equine or the mare. And so it stands for equine chorion gonadotropin. So the equine chorion is going to be in the placental tissue, and that is where we're going to see ECG be produced from in response to a pregnancy being present. All right, so the placenta is the answer here. All right, let's roll to our next question. Okay, follicle stimulating hormone, also abbreviated as FSH, is produced in which tissue? Give you 30 seconds here. All right, 15 to go. All right, go ahead and lock them in, guys. Okay, so FSH is going to be produced from the anterior pituitary gland. So specifically the gonadotrope cells of the anterior pituitary gland. These are also the cells that produces LH. All right, so the way that FSH gets produced is that in the hypothalamus that produces GnRH, that GnRH hormone is going to be produced in response to a bunch of other activating mechanisms. It's going to travel from the hypothalamus to the anterior pituitary gland, and it is going to produce and then release FSH, and plus another one that we'll probably get to in just a few minutes. Okay, so its target tissue, the place that FSH is received, or the place that it binds to its receptor, is in the ovary. All right, so we may be getting confused between where a hormone is produced and where a hormone is received, okay? So if that is your case right now, just remember to go that next layer deeper with your memorization. All right, so we'll activate this one. Next question, prostaglandin F2 alpha is produced in which tissue? We'll give you 30 seconds here as well. All right, 15 seconds to go. All right, let's go ahead and lock them in. Okay, so PGF2 alpha or prostaglandin F2 alpha is produced by the uterus. Okay, so this is going to be a fatty acid based hormone that is produced in response to what in the uterus? And this is the part where you guys can just talk to me. So PGF2 alpha is produced in response to what in the uterus?
Does it have to do with GnRH?
No, not really.
Oh.
So think about the uterus. What is its whole function?
Is it pregnancy?
Pregnancy, right? So, but Peyton, we turn this around, right? Because I asked kind of a backwards question. So PGF2 alpha is produced when there is an absence of a pregnancy in the uterus. Okay, so no pregnancy, PGF2 alpha is produced, and we start the cycle completely over again because that's the body's response to try to procreate, right? If there's no pregnancy, we just keep trying to get pregnant. All right, good job, guys. I think you are I'm more confident in you than I think you guys are at this point. So, which is pretty normal, but that's okay. All right, let's go to our next question. So testosterone is produced in which tissue? All right, so we'll give you 30 seconds here. But you guys don't need it. That's cool. All right, I think we got them all in. So in the testy, okay, which is true, that one just didn't get checked. We also see the answers are wrong on this. I think that I forgot to fix it from last week. So if you chose the testes, which everybody did, that is true. So, okay, cool. Let's roll into, oh, there's one more question that we kind of went through last week. So let's do this one. Luteinizing hormone is produced in which tissue? All right, you guys are on it. Love it. Okay, let's lock them in. Great, anterior pituitary gland. Very good, guys. So luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone are produced by the same cell type in the anterior pituitary gland. And they're both triggered or triggered to synthesize and secrete or produce and then dump into the system by GnRH. Okay, so GnRH coming from the hypothalamus travels to the anterior pituitary gland where it produces FSH and LH both. So good job. All right, so now I think we are headed into, not spring break, I need to get rid of that question. Material that was presented this week in class, or last week in lecture. All right, so gonatotrope cells are located in which tissue? So we'll give you 30 seconds here. Gonatotrope cells are located in which tissue?
I have my shoes on. The wash machine's taking a really long time because the water's on.
Okay.
Would you mind just turning that to the off position?
Yeah, I can.
And that'll stop it. And then the water will, the laundry will
Hey,
go back.
Caleb, my friend, you are not muted.
You got it.
I think the laundry's green enough right here. Just turn it to
I'll mute him. It's okay.
off.
Maybe. There we go. Okay. Okay, guys, we'll give you just about 10 more seconds here and then we'll roll. Okay, good job, guys. So let's see what we got here. Okay, we're a little bit all over the board. All right, so gonatotrope cells are those cells that we just talked about. They are located in the anterior pituitary gland, and these cells make hormones that target the gonads. So that might be an easier way to remember gonatotrope cell. Okay, so gonad means gonad, right? And trope means secretion. And so the gonatotrope hormones are going to be produced in the anterior pituitary gland, but they are going to be received in either the ovary or the testes, depending on sex. All right, so again, gonatotrope cells are going to be located in the anterior pituitary gland, and they produce hormones like LH and FSH. Okay, so next question. GnRH has which chemical classification? Is it a prostaglandin, a steroid, a glycoprotein, or a neuropeptide? Give you 30 seconds here. All right, about 15 seconds to go. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, yes, neuropeptide. So good job, guys. So gonadotropin releasing hormone is a peptide or a protein hormone that is produced by neurons in the hypothalamus. Okay, so the hypothalamus is at the base of the brain. It's still part of neurotissue. Therefore, it is a neuropeptide because a peptide is a short chain of protein, right? So neuro and peptide. Excellent. All right, next question. Progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen are all what biochemical classification? 30 seconds here. All right, guys, go ahead and lock those answers in. Steroids, fantastic. Everybody has got the ending, the own or the ol ending down. Very, very well. Good job. Okay. So next question, identify the correct sequence of steroid hormone action. And I'm going to give you guys a minute here. Okay, because it's a little bit of a bigger question. So the correct sequence of steroid hormone action. So these are your 4 choices. You get to rank them, or you should be able to rank them. Okay, about 20 seconds to go. You guys want more time?
Yes, I just figured out how to like move them.
Okay, sounds good. I'll give you another minute. All right, 30 more seconds. All right, let's go ahead and lock them in, guys. All right, let's look at the responses. Okay, so we're a little bit all over the, okay, I think for the most part, you guys have mRNA synthesis and protein synthesis down. So that's the last step, okay? That's the goal of this whole thing. All right. So first and foremost, the steroid has to come from some other tissue through the blood system, and it is going to have to go through that cell membrane into the cytoplasm. Okay. And so with steroid hormone action, if you guys remember back to the lecture, I think I had a picture of that green Ghostbusters ghost that can just go through walls and it leaves its goo behind. Okay. So kind of a similar situation. The steroids actually have the ability to go through the cell wall without any sort of transport mechanism. It just can kind of fade through the wall like that ghost can. All right, so once it moves through the cell membrane into the cytoplasm, it's then going to find its nuclear receptor there. Okay, so each hormone, whether it's testosterone, progesterone, estradiol, or some other steroid, is going to have its own very specific receptor. And so in the cytoplasm, it's going to bind to that receptor, and the receptor is going to take it into the nucleus. Okay, and that's where we see that steroid being transported, is after the binding of the nuclear receptor. So just to kind of reiterate this, let me and put it in better terms. Let me switch gears and we'll go look at the lecture. All right, let me get it. It's protein hormone. So, oh, there's a chat. No, Marlon, the sequence that's up now, like top to bottom, is not in the correct order. And so that's why I'm going to switch gears and we're going to look at the lecture just to make sure there's no confusion. All right, so let's come on. There we go. Ah, dang it. There we go. Okay, so that process in that question is describing slow hormone action. Okay, so hormones or steroid hormones can actually interact in two different ways, either the slow method, which is this one, or the fast method, which is actually really similar to protein. All right, so with the slow hormone action, what ends up happening is the steroid actually has to come, oh, come on. I was going to try to draw on this, but maybe I'm not going to be able to. Oh, there we go. There we go. So the steroid is first going to have to come into the cell from the blood system. Okay, and just like a ghost, right? That's my ghost. It can move across that cell membrane into the cytoplasm. Once it's in the cytoplasm, it's then going to bind with its nuclear receptor. So each hormone has its own nuclear receptor. Okay, and so it's going to be different for testosterone, different for progesterone, and different for estradiol. So it has to find its correct one first. And then it is going to go into the nucleus of the cell. And steroids are unique in this mechanism because they actually have to find DNA, unwind it, set down on the DNA, and go through protein synthesis. And so that means that it is going to go through transcription and translation, just like we learned about in genetics. And so the first step is to unwind. Then it's going to produce a messenger RNA. And that messenger RNA is then going to head out of the cell or out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm. And it's going to be translated into this new protein here. All right, so the 4 steps that I need to make sure that you guys know are: 1 is steroid transport, okay? 2 is movement through the cell membrane and into the cytoplasm. So this whole guy right here is like number 2. 3 is binding of the steroid receptor to its nuclear receptor. And then 4 is mRNA and protein synthesis. So that's kind of like all of this down here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so Marlon, does that help with the sequence of events?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good deal. Anybody else have any questions on slow hormone action?
Why is the steroid transport first?
Because the steroid has to get from whatever tissue it was secreted in to its target cell. So this guy here is its target cell.
And it would just be passive transport, right?
Yes, this one would be, because it's just going across the cell membrane in a passive fashion.
Okay, that makes sense. That's where I was getting confused. I was kind of thinking of it like binding. It needs to bind first to then go somewhere, but that's a carrier protein.
Right. That's a protein hormone action.
Yeah.
So let me clear all this out. Okay, so if we go, oh, come on. So protein hormone action has these steps associated with it. Okay, so it's going to be, yeah, this is a good one. All right, so with protein hormones, those are the ones that are coming from its tissue of synthesis, okay? Or where it's produced. It is going to attach to some sort of carrier protein that will help protect it. Okay, and then that hormone, once it gets to its target tissue, so this is going to be a target cell. That hormone is going to bind to a very specific receptor. And so that binding action will then change the configuration of this G protein. So it actually physically changes it. And that change activates the rest of this cycle here. So we get the G protein that is going to be converted to adenylene cyclase. And then we'll get cyclic AMP being produced. Cyclic AMP is then going to be converted into a protein kinase. And that protein kinase is then going to synthesize a new protein. And so that new protein is going to be the outcome here. All right, so now that you guys know that, let's switch back and talk and go back to Poll Everywhere and try to push some of these things forward. Okay, so identify the correct sequence of protein hormone action now. And I'll give you guys a minute. Okay, about 20 seconds to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and lock in those answers. Okay, and let's see what we got. Okay, you guys got it. Okay, so first and foremost, the hormone has to bind, right? And then we see adenylene cyclase being produced in response to that G protein changing configuration. Adenylene cyclase is then converted into cyclic AMP, and cyclic AMP is then going to be converted into protein kinase. And then we get synthesis of the new protein product. So good job, guys. You got it. All right, so let me clear my annotations. And we'll go to the next question. Oh, okay. That's just kind of a how you're feeling type of thing. Okay, cool. So how are you guys feeling about endocrinology? You feel like you have a pretty decent understanding? Okay. Hopefully it's making sense that why we're spending so much time talking about the chemical makeup of hormones, how they're classified, and how they communicate or elicit their response. Okay, so they're all different for every single hormone. And knowing those foundational principles is really going to help us as we move into the systems discussion. So like puberty and cycling and pregnancy and all of that type of stuff. So yeah, Addie, good point. So Addie says she needs to work on where the hormones are coming from and going to. That is a big part of this as well. That is going to become a little bit more solid as we start getting into puberty and cyclicity, okay? So if you guys can go back and create, actual like physical flashcards or the flashcard, is it Quizlet? Is that how the thing? Yeah, Peyton, thank you. And like just create them. So like, this hormone is produced where and it targets what tissue. If you guys can get down where it's produced from and what tissue it targets, that's going to be like half the battle. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, guys, we've got about 5 minutes left. I am totally open to answering questions. And if you don't have any, that is totally fine too. You guys can go ahead and jump off. I'll stay on for at least 5 more minutes before I've got to get ready for my next meeting.
I kind of had a question. It's not really to do it with the class.
That's
Kind
okay.
of,